You want to make your property stand out. So there's a lot of different ways you can make your property stand out. But bottom line is people look at price for everything, especially when there's a supply. So well, I can get a nice house, 10 nice houses. So now which one's the cheapest? So you can be different by making an odd number price. If you're seeing 1550 be there, a lot of 1550 properties, make yours 1545 or 1547 or something different to where, oh, that's not normal.
Rents are going down. Yes, folks, I'm hearing from more and more landlords across the country that rents are going down. We're going to talk with the one and only Casey from Brick by Brick to understand what's going on in Memphis specific, and then what we could do as landlords if rents are falling. Casey, welcome back. You've been on the road doing some homeschooling, traveling the country. We could talk about that later, but let's talk about rents falling first. What are you seeing in Memphis?
Rents are going down, Michael, and we have a house on the market for rent. And let me tell you, rents are not appreciating like they were post-COVID. I mean, rents went up in my B-class market $300, during that time. And a lot of owners or property management companies, mostly owners, are trying to still get that increase, that year over year, add an extra $100 to the rent, and it's not working. Properties are sitting on the market. You can absolutely tell the owners who are trying to list their properties for rent at a price that it would be had prices continued to go up. But not only are they not going up, they're going down. Some cases I'm seeing, out here in Memphis, even pre-COVID levels, we're seeing rents go way down. So
Wow. So let's put some
say,
numbers on that. What does that mean?
okay.
So give me a
So
for example.
Sure. For example, so I'm looking right now in the B class markets in Memphis and properties that were 1550, last year and the year before. We're seeing those easily be 1400,
Oh, wow.
1450 a month.
So we're talking 10%.
Yeah, some I'm seeing like even the high 1300s, but those are kind of on the major streets. But still, like to see anything in the with a 13 something for rent in those areas is like, whoa, I mean, I haven't seen that since several years ago. So, and there's more properties sitting on the market. They're not renting as fast. And I've had people say, oh, well, is now still a good time to buy? Like, why should I buy rentals now? It's just part of the process. Okay. Like nothing's ever going to be perfect and rent super fast and increase so much every single year. It sucks, but it's just part of the process. Economy is in stress. People don't have as much money. They're really watching their pennies. They're not upgrading even their rental homes. Maybe they're staying with a friend or family member instead of renting. So properties are sitting on the market longer. There's a little bit more inventory. And because of the supply of rentals, buyers, just like with the buyer's market, it's a buyer's market, it's a tenant market, and they can kind of be a little bit more choosy on what properties they want to rent.
Yeah. I think there's, again, I just want to make sure I heard that number right. So what you're seeing right now, late 2024, is single family homes in Memphis. You might see a 10% drop in rents. That's what you're seeing right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. That's
It's kind
crazy.
of significant,
Yeah.
it's
I mean,
fine. It's fine. But, it's like if you're doing the work and you're running your numbers, look at rents on the lower end range. Don't assume the higher end range when you're crunching your numbers. So just
that,
assume the lower end range to be on the safe side.
yeah, that's really smart. And again, a lot of folks I've been talking about for a while now that we're already seeing softness in apartments, AKA multifamily. It's interesting to see it's morphing into single family. And I think you hit the nail on the head. I think what we've seen artificial and unhealthy rent growth for a couple of years. And now we're seeing what's called reversion to the mean. We're also seeing what's called turnover, right? Rental turnovers are lower than they used to be. Hence, if units do go vacant, they don't fill as quickly. It'll be interesting to see where we go. Memphis has real winters, right? You have snow on the ground in Memphis.
I mean, it might snow once a year in
Okay.
February. And
Okay.
since we don't get snow really, we don't have snow plows. So everything's closed for like a week. So most years we'll get snow for 1 week in February, and that's it.
Okay. All right. So because where I was going with that is I was wondering, because the holidays are slow around the country, but
They're
there
still
are
slow.
parts, yeah, there's it's still slow, but there are part of the country like where the lumberjack landlords, where he calls it the frozen tundra, like nobody moves because it's just
Yeah,
snow and
it's
ice.
not like that, like in the
Okay.
Midwest and stuff, right? Because it's cold, but and unfortunately, for some reason, I always have properties ready to list for the first time in the winter. Like I'll buy them in the spring or the summer. It takes for Blake and I to rehab them, and November, I'm like, so oftentimes we're listing houses for the first time in December, October, November, December, and it
Your
does
new one,
take
yeah.
longer than
Yeah.
usual, but people still do move in the winter out here.
Yeah, it's funny when I look at my area, Fresno, California, we saw a meaningful rent drop in single family homes last year. So maybe this is something that's circling the country at different rates,
Yeah.
because we're seeing a little bit of firming in single family rents this year versus last year. But like you, right? We saw this crazy run up in 2021. I know of a house that's a little, I think it's like 612 square feet, tiny 2-1, that pre-pandemic rented for like 995, got all the way up to 1650.
Oh, wow.
And then I think right now is renting for like 1300, but this was all kind of last year.
Yeah.
Um, I think there was a time where there was just a lot of people looking for houses versus apartments, right? Give me a backyard, give me some
Yep.
parking, a front yard that's fenced and safe. Um, it's pretty interesting. And again, I've been talking about this a lot in multifamily because there was a lot of these syndications who said 5% rent growth for 5 years. I'm like, you guys are crazy. That's
No.
not happening.
No. I wonder too if, talking this through right now, I wonder too if people after COVID wanted the backyard, they wanted the house. So, remember in New York, apartment buildings were just kind of vacant. It was a big ordeal on the news. I wonder if now, because of the struggle people are having with affordability and just, prices have soared 20% for groceries and
Yeah.
40%. Like it's ridiculous that now they're, well, maybe I will go back to the apartment. It's cheaper
No, I think
instead of the
I
backyard.
I would not be shocked, right? Go back to an apartment, save 5, 6, $700, but you still have
Yeah.
a green belt. You maybe have a gym. I don't know what you have, but yeah, I think there's something to that. I mean, at some point, you can't squeeze blood from a stone, right? So, maybe you
Yeah.
pushed it to get into a home when you had to social distance or whatever we called it, but now it's behind us. We're like, screw it, we're going back to an apartment. That might be happening. I don't know.
Yeah, it could be. Now, I have not looked around to see what apartment, rents and stuff are going for, just single family. So I don't know how that's going. I'll probably ask at my investor meeting. It's on the 10th. Find out because
Yeah,
there's a lot of multifamily investors in Memphis,
that'd be
at
good
the
to know.
investor meeting. Yeah,
Yeah, because
I'm interested.
maybe they're firming while single families are. I don't know. That's just a
I
theory
don't
at
know.
this point.
It could be, but I am seeing single family properties stay on the market longer and rents are down for sure.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, what are some things some landlords could do? Again, we'll focus single family. If
Yeah.
they're seeing softer rents, if they're seeing more days on market, gaps, what are some things they could do? What's one, or why don't
One
you do one? I'll
one
do one.
thing one thing, yeah, for sure that I would say to do is you want to make your property stand out. So there's a lot of different ways you can make your property stand out. But bottom line is people look at price for everything, especially when there's a supply. So well, I can get a nice house, 10 nice houses. So now which one's the cheapest? So you can be different by making an odd number price. If you're seeing 1550 be there a lot of 1550 properties, make yours 1545 or 1547 or something different to where, oh, that's not normal and it just doesn't look the same as the other ones and maybe they'll click on it. So you want to get eyeballs on your listing, and if you can make your price a little different, stand out, that's an easy one to do.
Yeah, the biggest thing that I always found that helped me when I had a unit not rented, specifically a house, is I always stand in the front yard. Like I stand in the middle of the street and I look at the house, because you got to remember a lot of prospective tenants are just going to drive by.
Yep.
If your house doesn't stand out from the street as clean and well manicured and bushes trimmed and power washed or whatever you have to do in your area, they're not even going to stop and go inside.
Right.
Right? You have to make them stop. You have to make them get out of the car. So I would focus on I'll call it the street view, for lack of a better
Yep.
term.
Yep.
What does that look like?
And I would say, even to go further with that, photos are key, because like for me, I no longer put for rent signs in my yard because I don't want
Yeah.
squatters. So
Yep.
people only know that it's for rent by going online.
Yep.
And if your pictures are grainy and they're dark and you took pictures on a gloomy day and your toilet seat is up and they're, just terrible, your pictures, your photos are what sells. So if you want to make an appointment for your property when they have 50 to choose from, you need to make yours look as awesome as possible online, which means
Yep.
take quality photos. And honestly, an iPhone or any of today's phones can take really good photos if you know what you're doing. But if you're terrible with photos, hire a professional for a couple $100 to come take pictures of your property, just like you would if you're listing it. It doesn't have to be amazing. You don't want to oversell the property online and then have it not look anything like that in person. But taking quality, bright photos on a sunny day, putting them in Lightroom and doing some like light editing to make them bright and pop. I mean, I've been
Yeah.
doing that for years. And the biggest pet peeve is when I see toilet seats up, or
Mhm.
especially my favorite one is you can tell property management companies don't even use phones and they use an old camera from the 70s. It's like, this is the office camera. Okay. You can just tell that these
Yeah.
pictures were taken on some freaking old camera and they're terrible resolution, terrible photo quality. So
Yeah.
you can easily make yours stand out from the property management companies by just using a newer camera with higher pixelation,
Yeah, when
higher
you talk
resolution.
about when you talk about pictures, the other thing I would tell you think about is what picture's the big one, right? Because every time you go to a photo gallery, there's always the first picture.
Yeah.
What I would do on the first picture is if you have something unique or special about your property, have that be the first picture. Don't have it the seventh picture because very few people go past the first or second in your carousel. So realize that first one's important. What's one last thing a landlord could do to get more eyeballs and traction on their property?
Well, one thing I would say is if you're not getting a lot of phone calls, right? Don't put a lot of qualifications in your list. Just don't put much, and then call and talk to them on the phone. So if you put right away, my FICO score is this, and I need these 40 things from you, it's like, I'll just
Yeah.
call the next people. They
Yeah.
want too much information. I'm just gonna, so kind of keep it simple in your listing, and let them want to call. I remember back in the day, like for regular listings, I wouldn't put the price, and I would just say call to ask. So they would have to call to ask. I don't recommend that anymore. They probably pass on it, but put the price, but don't put as many qualifications. So you're ruling people out already, especially with pets. If you say no pets, but you're probably going to accept pets, just don't put no pets. I used to do that. I don't want dogs, no dogs. And then people wouldn't call because I didn't put dogs. When I'd probably accept dogs anyway. I just don't want to accept dogs off the bat. So I just
Mhm.
leave it alone. Put minimum, don't put a lot of qualifications in the listing, and you'll get more phone calls that way.
Yeah, the last thing again, as a landlord who invested through 2005 and six, which was the worst time to be a landlord, most vacancies, move-in specials, is think about the tenants that are coming in. They're typically moving from somewhere else. So maybe you can offer, instead of lower rent, maybe you just do half off first month or half off deposit. Or if it gets really tough out there, first month rent, right? A lot of folks, when they're filling up apartment buildings, they will do 2 months free rent because again,
Yeah.
they're looking people to fill up. So again, if you don't want to cut rent, but you want to give something extra, you could do half off deposit, half off first months. There are things you could do. Um, again, it's about getting people in, especially as we're in the slow season. So pretty interesting to hear that rents are down 10% in
Yeah.
Memphis for single family homes. That's pretty wild. Folks, in the comments below, let us know what you're seeing in your city, your state. Are rents down 10%? Are they down 5%? Shoot, are they up? Let us know in the comments below. Casey, how can they find you?
People can find me everywhere on YouTube, Brick by Brick Wealth, as well as Instagram, Brick by Brick Wealth.
Thank you so much. Take care.